Hello, saints. In the seven seals, as Jesus begins to open them, what we see here is that the first four are horses, and then we have the next three. You see it's in the group of four and then three with the emphasis on the first four. When we do the trumpets, it's the same way. They're broke up into four and three, but this time in the trumpets, you'll see the emphasis on the last three, not on the first four. So they kind of follow a pattern here. This here in the seals, as I said last time, is the overcoming of the saints in the present age, is from the ascension to the consummation. And we see it in the guise of four horses. The first horse that comes out of the gate is the white horse, and that's pure and giving the gospel to the world. And the rider on it has the bow, and he's shooting people. He's uh, claiming people for Jesus. They're slaying them in the gospel. And so he goes forth to conquer. And this is usually looked at by the evangelicals as an end-time Antichrist. But we find nowhere Antichrist is in white, riding a white horse, wearing a white robe, or anything of that nature. We'll see some things in the study lesson that will give you the comparisons. The second horse comes out is red, and that's usually a picture of blood and persecution. And this is in the age of suffering. And the church is now suffering for their beliefs in Christ. The next horse that comes out is a black horse. And there we see compromise. And this we could probably see around the beginning of the 4th century when Constantine gave Christianity the right to exist, made us legit. And in so doing, church and state had come together. And in so doing, we see this corruption, this compromise within the church. And then the fourth horse is things have been compromised so much this fourth horse is barely moving. It's the only horse that has a name. His name of the rider, his name is Death, and Hades or Hell follows after him. And this horse is a horse without the gospel, it seems. It's the time period of the Enlightenment. Man is too smart, too sophisticated to hear the gospel. And we see this during the period of Enlightenment in 1700s, 1800s, and into the modern world. We're in a postmodern age now, and people are just too sophisticated for God. And now we're in a time where there is very little hope, it appears. Paul referred to the time at the end as the great falling away, and we seem to be a decline in Christianity proportionate to the population of the earth. And so is this what's happening? This is what we're seeing? And that's what we see in the beginning of the seven seals. And then we go to the fifth seal. It's the souls of the saints under the altar crying out. They've been martyred for the cause, and they're crying out to God, how long, O Lord, until you judge? After the four horses have come out, they don't see the gospel doing what it's supposed to do to conquer the world, to take back the kingdom. And they're wondering, does God's gospel have power enough to do that? Paul, in Romans chapter 1, verse 17, calls it the power of God. That's the gospel. It is the power of God unto salvation to those who believe, to the Jew first and to the Gentile. Is there power in the gospel? We seem that maybe in this time, at this picture, that possibly Satan could win, but not a chance. In the next seal, the sixth seal, we see the signs in the sky, the appearance of Jesus, and those who are on earth who are not saved, who are crying for the rocks to fall on them, or to hide them from the cave and hide them from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the Lamb. And then they ask at the end, who is able to stand? Chapter 7 is the 144,000 answering that question of who is able to stand. And we see that great multitude that John is able to see standing before the throne, and the Lamb, who is in the center of the throne, spreads his tabernacle, his home, if you will, over them. And they are brought into the seat of God. And so we see the fulfillment of that dual directional text out of chapter 3 of Revelation to the church of Laodicea, that those are the overcomers who sit with Jesus in his heavenly throne. There we sit in heavenly places, and we see the fulfillment there in chapter 7, verse 15. And next, then we see we'll be going to the seven trumpets and telling across in the same period and talking about some of the dynamics that must take place at the same time that the church is working to overcome and sit with Jesus. Blessings.